Welcome to the Data Cloud Podcast, Vic. We're delighted to have you with us.
Hi, Dana, and nice to be with you all as well.
Tell us about your role at Nestlé, your background, and what excites you about the future of data, analytics, and AI.
Yeah, so my role at Nestle is quite a complex one. I am managing what is called analytics, AI, data, and integration globally across the scope of the 180 plus countries that we operate in. And and I'm managing all the platforms. I'm managing all the data assets and our data domains at an enterprise level, and then all the AI analytics services and products as well. To your question on what excites me about the future, Dana, I think we have been doing AI to optimize a lot of our functional capabilities over the last many, many years, and obviously having a very value driven approach to choosing which problems to solve for the business. But I think now, with what we are seeing, especially with agentic I think the big opportunity that we all see within our company and generally across the industry as well is that it's not just about a particular capability, it's about the whole process, the end-to-end process as we call it, at least within Nestle, that can be not just optimized because that's been something done before, but I would say completely reimagined with the help of AI. And that reimagination has a massive implication on the operating model of that process. And it also has a massive implication on potentially how the structure and our interactions with our consumers, customers, as well internally within the company employee from an experience perspective gets impacted. So I think that's the thing that excites me the most about what's coming in the future.
Sure. So, not only process reengineering, but cultural reengineering, which sort of really gets to the heart of making things better in holistic ways.
Absolutely. And I think what we say here at Nestle as part of our enterprise digital transformation is while the processes will be reimagined, there are four key fundamental enablers that always need to be thought about. And as you rightly said, the people, the capabilities, the culture as an aspect is very important. But so is operating model, which I think sometimes, in the past when we have done optimizations or various kinds of analytics and AI use cases, sometimes gets lesser importance than maybe the tool and the data and AI capability itself. But also, you have to keep in mind that data AI is a key enabler as well, along with technology. And I think until these four ingredients don't come together, I don't think that reimagination is going to work.
Okay, so for many large, diverse, and complex businesses like Nestle, end to end and ubiquitous data flows are essential, as you were saying, to enabling these better and faster decisions and deliver a real difference to the business. So, after 18 years at Nestle, shaping the IT and the data strategy, Vic, how does this point in time, where we are right now, stand out in terms of reaping the rewards from all the past data maturity efforts? Are we actually seeing an acceleration and additional business value now?
I think so. I think one aspect that has been different over maybe I would say the earlier part of my career is we started, I think, on this journey, obviously looking at a lot of our internal processes, at least in Nestle, and hence a lot of focus on business performance metrics, how that requires a lot of internal data from the company. I think what we are now seeing is the end to end view also from a business architecture perspective. Because not only are you looking at data that is impacting your consumer journeys, your channels, as well as the back office processes that you have within the company, like operations and finance and HR and everything. I think what has changed quite a lot is that data has gone from being just focused on your internal data to a lot of external data and signals. And this has been a journey that I've seen over the last 4 or 5 years where we have matured because that data is not easy. I mean, a lot of the external data that we acquire has a lot of art and science to manage that. But then also, what has changed is the interplay of all of that data. So, in the past, you would require maybe for an individual use case or a project data that is actually required for that. So, I always think that we were pretty much a data as a service organization. So, what data do you need? We give it to you. I think what we have now seen is a very, very mature data product organization. So, how do we actually treat data as a data product itself? And I think that's been one major shift that I have seen. The external data and internal data combination has been another shift that I have seen. What I have also seen is that the importance of master data, which used to be pretty much focused on your key internal uh, things like core product, core customer, core vendor, or business partner type definitions, with things like all the complexity of external data and other data, other nature of data that is coming in, that master data has also become very rich, and you have to think about all kinds of relationships, and that critical master data in the company has also increased. And then I think now with Gen AI, Dana, what I'm seeing is something, to be honest, which I didn't ever have to think about in the past, is how to deal with unstructured data, and especially data that is maybe what we would term as knowledge within the company, not necessarily structured data as such. I think that has become extremely important. And finally, I also see, although in very limited spaces, where we had data gaps, how can we also start thinking about synthetic data creation? So I think what we have done at Nestle, Dana, with the help of modern data cloud platforms, is create our enterprise data domains. And essentially, these domains are a combination of master data, internal and external structured data, and unstructured data, because at the end of the day, AI needs all of it for getting the best for the company.
And finally, after many years of standing on the shoulders of other technologies and bringing together more and more efficiencies, we're finally at the point where we can bring all of the data resources and increasingly knowledge resources together to be optimized, to be accessible, and to be managed. And that truly does mean a whole greater than the sum of the parts. And that is quite new and interesting.
Absolutely. And also an element there is about reusability and interoperability, because I think there were cases in the past where the same data might have been replicated multiple times across the ecosystem of the company in different digital initiatives. I think what the enterprise data domains have allowed us in Nestle to do is to genuinely create data products that are reusable, are used by multiple products. And actually, one of the ways we actually measure the success of our data strategy, apart from many other things, is the fact how often are we reusing the same data product rather than creating new ones. And while it helps the company on the total cost of ownership and efficiencies and FinOps and various other dimensions, I think it really gets more and more intangible and tangible value out of the same data products.
Sure, we're using data and analytics and now AI to actually do data and analytics and AI better, faster, and cheaper, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Nestle is one of the best known brands in the world, but I'm going to guess that many of our listeners and readers and watchers don't necessarily know the full extent. So, can you give us a quick encapsulation of what Nestle is, what Nestle does, and how your organization is a pervasive value across all of those businesses?
Absolutely. So Nestle is, I'm pretty sure most of your viewers would at least have had a touch point with Nestle at some point in the life. I always think about calling it out like, if you're born, you're obviously into a baby food business. And if you're potentially old, you're still using some of our health science and life science products. And in the middle, you're actually indulging in a lot of amazing food products from our company. So it's one of the biggest CPG companies in the world. It's the biggest food company in the world. We have more than over 2,000 global brands, close to around 90 billion of revenue. And some of the brands which I'm sure you would have heard about is Nescafe, Nespresso, Maggie, if you're a listener in somewhere in Asia, and things like Milo for from or Nesquik, or you have obviously Nan and some of the products that we have within the nutrition space, um, and the list goes on. Kit Kat, if you love your chocolate, and as I said, 2,000 plus brands.
Right, and such diversity means one solution doesn't fit all. So you need to be perhaps centralized when you can, but you also have to be very custom and, I suppose, focused at the edge as well.
Absolutely, and also what adds to the complexity is our business operating model. Maybe to compare to some of the businesses in CPG where you are structured by categories because you are only playing in certain categories. We are actually playing pretty much across the value chain of a food and beverages businesses, and now life sciences as well. And you can imagine multi-category setup like that, and the need for localization in a category like food, because food is very personal to people at a consumer space, means that our business actually from P&L responsibility is decentralized by nature. Having said that, I think we in Nestle have always understood the importance of a very strong core digital, what you would call the core digital or digital core, as part of your enterprise architecture. And for that, many years back, being very foresighted, we created what is called our ERP standardization program. So we actually run our entire business, as far as the back office is concerned, is one single ERP. It's actually one of the biggest SAP implementations in the world. And on top of that, digital code allows us to create enterprise data domains. But we can never be having enterprise data domains cover all the needs of every single market. Just imagine in China, you will have some very specific media and consumer journeys. You will have them very different in Latin America. You have different channels of trade. You have mom and pop shops in India or in some of the South American countries, while the world of grocery looks very different in a US or a European market. So I think keeping that localization, whether it's about recipes, it's about consumer journeys, whether it's about channel management, means that we have to be flexible. And that's why our data and analytics model, from an operating model perspective, is hybrid in Nestle. We try to centralize what we need to centralize, and we also allow the flexibility on the edge. And we have teams that are working very close to our what we call our markets. We have 40 plus markets across the world which are running the P&L responsibility, and we have teams that are based in those opcos or our markets who are actually helping with that last mile integration of data. But at the same time, they're not duplicating the efforts of what is standard across the entire company, and they use the digital code that is coming from our enterprise data domains. And how to make it all work together is the art of working in a matrix organization like that.
Right, right. Now, I want to go back to a point you made, Vic, about trying to eliminate replication when it comes to data. I suppose there's also the need to remove replication when it comes to applications, too. Um, when it comes to making a shift from a BI focus to an AI focus, is that about removing replication, or is that a different type of journey? And how would you characterize it?
Yeah, and you use the example of AI to BI, but there are many countless examples. Obviously, in the past, we had monolithic data warehousing technologies. We moved to a modern data cloud environment, and essentially the use of the monolithic data warehouse becomes less. So we are always in our strategy, and I own the platforming strategy along with the data and AI services. We are always thinking about what is our sunsetting strategy, or where can we actually be efficient. And Nestle being quite a big company, we have lots and lots of applications that we have within our application management platform recorded. But we are always looking, and we have a product management mindset to this, on what are the things that we are conceptualizing, developing further, industrializing, scaling. But we are also looking at a very important aspect of sunsetting. But the reality is, I do see, for example, business intelligence starting to maybe become more niche and not as expanded across a company like we see today. We have a massive use of tools like Power BI and other such business intelligence tools, actually some of the highest consumption across the industry in that. But then I think now with AI, we can talk to our data in a more AI centric way. So you're right. I think we will start seeing that having an impact on the consumption of business intelligence tools. But there are many other such things. For example, I do think that there will be also an impact on robotic process automation, which was maybe the earlier part of deterministic automation that was happening. And that is a part of my portfolio as well. And we'll see maybe some of the agentic capabilities to come and start taking a few of those capabilities into semi-autonomous, if not autonomous agentification that we are starting to see. and the list goes on. I think that we are always constantly looking at that roadmap and how do we sunset what is maybe not relevant anymore.
Mm. While you've raised the subject of agentic AI, how do you see that evolution manifesting when it comes to optimization of people, process, and technology? I suppose BI is very good at telling you what's already happened. Perhaps agentic AI can tell you what to expect with high probability, and then also how to get there and execute on it.
Yeah.
Is that the case in your thinking?
Yeah, I think when we started this journey, like every other company, 2 or 3 years back, we were obviously starting with a lot of what I would call AI assistants, and still having the human in the loop. I think that gave us a lot of learnings on where can we augment within our processes people with capabilities that are essentially making their life easier. And you had to create some focused assistance for that. And then I would say maybe not autonomous agents, but we started delving into agents, and those agents were of different nature. Like, for example, Dana, you just talked about the talk to data kind of agent, or there might be an agent that is allowing you to write back data into your ERP system, or there's an agent that is actually following a step that potentially is multiple things that you have to do in different systems, and it's orchestrating across all of that. I think what we are now seeing is that because we have learned in that journey across these capabilities, which are like steps or tasks or activities within a process, we, I think, have understood what the building blocks are and which ones are working well and which ones potentially need a bit of work to do. Because to be very honest with you, there are also learnings, like, what is really maybe advertised by sometimes the platform and product companies versus what's the reality when it hits our data, our ecosystem. And essentially what we are starting to now do in line of that reimagination that I was talking at the very beginning of this call, um, we are starting to see how we can maybe take something like an idea to launch process within Nestle and essentially think about orchestrating across the different steps and different platforms and different business workflows and agentify parts of that so we can uh, reimagine that flow. And that is very interesting exercise, Dana, because sometimes we also realize through it that maybe that step is not required anymore, and we are going at it from a very outcome lens. We obviously are having outcomes aligned to a business strategy, so we are focusing on the outcomes that we want to achieve and then kind of drilling down from there into the processes that need to be changed. I wouldn't say we have cracked it, but I think clearly from a strategy perspective, that's where we want to go. Rather than do a plethora of lots and lots of assistants and agents, we want to really focus our efforts on how do we completely change the process itself.
Yeah, interesting. It almost sounds as if you want to elevate project management to an agentic activity and then perhaps organize so many different projects happening simultaneously in such a way that the people, the best knowledge and human resources can then execute on those project elements. But orchestrating it has always been very difficult. So is that a part of what you're seeing as for the potential for agentic AI?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we are actually now even looking at our portfolio of projects, which used to be use cases to help us in specific functional capabilities, and starting to think that how can we not just prioritize based on value, amplification, complexity, but also how is it contributing in making that end-to-end process. Uh, no, I won't say completely reimagined, but optimal to the degree that it starts unlocking the maximum amount of value. So our big bets and our projects are actually now really taking shape based on all those factors.
Fascinating. Um, of course, bedrock to all of that foundational is to use as much data resources as possible. We mentioned earlier that knowledge and unstructured data of all sorts is part of that. So I'm wondering how Snowflake is helping you bolster that foundation in order to enable some of these higher order agentic values over time.
Yeah, so we when I was mentioning in the past comments, the use of the modern data cloud environment, I mean Snowflake is that for us in Nestle. And when I was talking about the 15 enterprise data domains that we have actually been working on, that's what we are using as a technology. So I think what certainly Snowflake has helped us achieve up until now is the ability to start piecing together this data, which used to be in lots and lots of systems of record and systems of engagement, into how we want to bring them together as data products for consumption for multiple use cases. And the use case patterns that we have obviously been very successful have been scaling machine learning use cases, scaling uh, business intelligence use cases, scaling some of the capabilities that you would typically associate with assistants and agents, but maybe in more specific zoomed in areas. um, I think we are still trying to do some groundwork when it comes to the unstructured data field, because um, we do understand the importance of it. And obviously when we are working on a particular use case, like say we are focusing on source to pay, we are focusing then on the contracts within our company. Or if we are looking at our factory operators, then all the SOPs and various documentation that is related to the different tasks. So we are going at it use case by use case, but there is still a lot of work to do to just clean up using clean rooms and things like that. The ability to bring it all together, because I think one thing which you can imagine in a very big organization like Nestle is we did not have potentially with our decentralization all of these components of unstructured data necessarily well organized or well defined, or metadata around it well structured. So I think there is a bit of a groundwork that we have to do. Obviously after that, for a particular use case, we are doing it in the priority of the use case that we are choosing to work on.
Sure. You also mentioned earlier, Vic, that talking to the data is important and that people can start to interact with data as a conversation, natural language, suiting the human rather than the machine, if you will. Is Snowflake an important element of making that possible?
Absolutely. So I think we have obviously been using Snowflake a lot for the patterns that I mentioned, but when it comes to the agentic side, one pattern that we are seeing is talk to data. And I mean, obviously, we don't want to have everybody going and creating reports in the company. I think they spend a lot of time on it, and we want to focus on getting the insights. And certainly, we are using some of the capabilities that are coming from Snowflake. For example, Cortex AI, which is a product that obviously Snowflake is investing quite a lot in. Obviously, working closely with our key account and architecture groups that are provided by Snowflake, we are starting to use the capabilities that are coming as ground running, and then we are starting to use them in those features like talk to data.
Mm. And how about that other concept we touched on about being able to use analytics and AI to better manage and process and optimize analytics and AI? Is Snowflake a factor in that and being able to point the technology at the use of, and cultivation of the technology in terms of analytics?
Yes, I mean there is a lot of metadata that we are generating, and we talk about the active metadata. So we have many different measures for how we see the success of our data products. And I think just like you would want to see a successful business or a successful function or a successful anything, you need to have metrics to measure that. And I think we also need the measures for a successful data product. So we are using a lot of active metadata from the systems to see how the consumption patterns are, how people are querying things for financial operations, for seeing like what are the type of queries that people are asking, and hence how can we tune them. So there are lots and lots of capabilities that we can use from the data about the data to make our data products even faster. We actually have a maturity score within the company, which we are measuring across 5 dimensions. And obviously, the data about the data is helping us come to that maturity scores as well.
And Vic, I should think in an organization that's hybrid, as you described it, with a high degree of centralization and the need to go out to the edge in various markets, different geographies and jurisdictions and legal environments, that openness and standards, whenever appropriate, are important. Is there anything about the way Snowflake manages openness when it comes to data and repositories and cloud structures that allows an organization like yours to better accomplish the goal a hybrid efficiency?
I mean, obviously, what we are trying to do is we don't replicate the data outside of Snowflake into fringe environments. So we have set some architectural patterns from our enterprise architecture as well as our centralized platform teams, and one of the things that we are starting to do within our edge, I would say, infrastructure is how do we, rather than people are exporting data or potentially sending data to some other environment, actually contributing to enhance the data domains themselves. So, which by the way comes back to capability building and training the teams in the edge, which is not easy because you have to deal with 40 different entities. But some of our opcos and markets have very, very amazing skills. I would say even more mature than maybe some of the people in the central team. And we are always using them as a lighthouse markets to try these things out and then see how can we learn from that and potentially spread that across different markets that we have. And essentially everybody contributes to the same ecosystem, but keeping in mind that there are some guardrails. We call it within Nestle, and I'm sure it's called in the industry something similar, freedom in the box. But the box has to be very well defined, and the box has to be defined through some standards, some guardrails, some guidelines, some automation scripts and various other capabilities. But at the end of the day, it's more a governance topic and not just a platform topic only.
Yes. All right. I have to say, in our discussion, it's become evident to me that you're very advanced in how you're using analytics and are not just creating a vision around agentic AI, but a true path that you're walking on. And that gives you, I think, insight into the relationship between people and their culture and their knowledge and what agentic and AI can do. So, can you share with us what you may have learned about what's the right mix or the right approach to enabling the best of what people and machines or machine learning or AI can do? What is the cultural path? Because this is quite unprecedented. This is entirely new in human evolution, even where the opportunity to combine the best of digital and the best of organic come together.
Yeah, I think my only take on that would be, and I'm sure many people will relate with what I'm just going to say. I think a lot of focus when you talk about AI goes on technology and the delivery models and how to deliver the architecture and all of that about AI. But honestly, what is the most important thing, and I think most people would relate to this, is you can have the best agent, the best AI tool, best machine learning model, or the best application at the end to solve a particular business problem. But unless and until you haven't brought the people who are going to use it with you on the journey, it's never going to happen. So there are various steps that we have obviously embarked on, and that is our functional capabilities. We are using functional excellence within the company. So our products which we build are owned by our business counterparts who take a proxy across all our markets, and there one of the big role of theirs is to actually make sure that they are doing a lot of learning capability building programs when it comes to change management and adoption. And our business entities, when they are deploying these capabilities, actually have a very clear focus on change management and adoption, because we can see like there are tools that we have created which have been extremely successful in one market, but in the other market it doesn't work. And it can't be about the tool, because the tool obviously is working for many markets. It really comes down to that change management and adoption capability. So that's very important. But the other thing which I think starting to become quite interesting is in AI, I think the complexity that people had to deal with, the different workflows, as an example, or learning new tools. Because imagine what used to happen, like you had systems of records, systems of engagement, systems of data, multiple reports, multiple applications that people had to be taught on. And at the end, there is this one guy in the market or one end user who has to learn all of this. And I think what is now happening, and this is where what they see in their consumer day-to-day life is when they are operating maybe some of the Gen AI tools as a consumer. I think we are trying to bring that experience to our enterprise as well, where maybe through chat-based interfaces we are creating the experience layer for all of these products. So they don't have to essentially learn a workflow in a tool X or a tool Y, or a simulation capability in a particular report or an application. But at the end of the day, the experience layer is a common one, and the complexity of the agents and complexity of the assistance and orchestration and data products is kind of hidden from them. So I think that's the other advantage that we are actually now seeing with this technology, which is going to make it hopefully easier for that change management and adoption as well.
Wow, it sounds as if we maybe have a new equation for managing and dealing with complexity that is a combination. We haven't quite figured out the right mixture, perhaps, but certainly bringing the best of what agentic AI and what human creativity can do will allow complexity to continue, but not become a barrier, but perhaps allow for a path to even better complexity, if there's such a thing, right? We always think of complexity as a bad thing because it's so difficult, but perhaps um, this combination, as you're describing it, will allow complexity to become a good thing.
Yes, and maybe eventually, I think it will also help us imagine different operating models, which today I think is not the case because you're kind of limited by the way things work in a process, right? So I think if you start reimagining a lot of the steps in the process, then you might start thinking about what roles do you need in a particular process, and what are the humans in the loop in which process, and that actually will maybe will remove some of the complexity from that equation, and really help people focus on decision intelligence and where we really need their mind to operate and work. We aren't there, Dana, just to be clear, but we obviously want to get there, just to be clear.
Yes, that's probably another good big topic for another day. But I really
Yes.
appreciate what we've been able to get into and understand the level of accomplishment that you've made at Nestle, and I'm sure that's going to help other people perhaps think about their direction and approach as well. So I thank you so much for joining our latest Data Cloud podcast, Vic. Vic Bhan, he's our group head of analytics and data and integration at Nestle. We really do appreciate your sharing your thoughts and experience and expertise with us all.
Thank you, Dana. Very happy to do so.